everyone, hope we're having just a lovely build up to Christmas. As the title indicates, I'm wanting to talk about this long awaited sequel to Avatar. 13 years since the OG. I can genuinely remember watching the first in the cinema and just being in awe of the CG and 3D aspects. Man, how 13 years flies by. Oh yeah, and no spoilers for this review either, by the way. But there's a lot of pressure on this one from both a visual and financial perspective. James Cameron had a lot to live up to, and given the hype, the excitement and the build up for this, I really can't say I was disappointed. The first thing to talk about is what I think most people are looking forward to, and with the first Avatar setting such a high bar in visuals, it's incredible to think this one topples it so effortlessly. There's big improvements on the Navi themselves, and as the trailer suggests, a lot of this is set in a new environment, in and around water. It's to the point where I haven't got a clue what water is real, what was entirely CG, what they might have even shot in a tank. Crazy. In the entire movie, I think there might have been about 30 seconds of footage where I could point at it and go, yep, green screen. There was a moment in the film where I genuinely had to remind myself that this is an alien planet and what I'm watching isn't real. There's a couple of questionable slow motion shots near the end of the film, which I will say looked a bit more janky than the rest, purely because every other shot is frame perfect, and then you saw this 7 or 8 out of 10 visual effect moment and just stands out a little bit, but the rest is so on point, and it wouldn't be unfair to say that half this movie basically feels like a nature documentary of an alien planet. The midpoint of the movie slows down to retread similar steps to the first film, and whilst we've been introduced to Pandora before, James Cameron is showing us there's more to this planet than just a forest, and we get to enjoy the same sense of wonder and curiosity we got watching the first Avatar. Learning about new animals, these different Navi who have adapted to living by the water. I was honestly half expecting David Attenborough just to start narrating at some point. The other half of this film is the story and action scenes, and story-wise it is arguably the weakest side to this film, but honestly not to a point where it becomes a fault. You'll catch on very quickly there's a lot of retreading of points to the first film. You know, protagonist goes to a new environment, has to adapt, bad humans terrorize the place, and some of the new bad guys are exact character copies of people from the first film, just with different accents. But apart from that, I'm not going to give away too much. And I think there's a understandable reason behind most of this. The first film's strength and why I think it did so well was because people kept coming back to the cinemas to learn and understand more about this new place. The jaw-dropping parts of this film are similar to the first, where you, along with the main characters, are discovering this new and beautiful part of this foreign planet. And the best way for James Cameron to give us that awe is to do it through the eyes of a character feeling the exact same thing. The main story itself, though, is set a decade or so in the future, where we stick with our two main leads, played by Sam Worthington as Jake Sully and Zoe Saldana as, is it Neytiri? These two were wonderful when in the film, but story-wise, we kind of passed the torch onto their kids for most of it. And I'm fine with that, but I do think Zoe Saldana should have had more screen time than what she did, as out of everyone in the film, her moments always elevated this movie from a character and story point. Especially in the last 30 minutes of the movie, she is incredible to watch. But yeah, besides Jake Sully and Zoe Saldana's character, they now have kids. And we had some questionable story add-ons to the first film to make some of these new characters easier to tie into the old. And I wasn't overly fussed about that in particular. The kids themselves, though, are great in this. It's a bit overwhelming at first to try and learn which one was which, and to be honest, I still couldn't tell you what their names are, but personality-wise, they all eventually shine into their own. The two middle kids especially, one played by Sigourney and the other by Dalton, stood out the most. The film does well to shift focus onto these characters and make them interesting and lovable enough to want to root for them. The new Navi we met design-wise were super interesting and looked great, but bar maybe one of them, they were mostly one-dimensional in character traits. I feel like more time could have been used to focus on who the new Navi were as people and just not what their culture was like. Also, apparently Kate Winslet was one of them as well, which I did not know. And I think that just goes to show that we didn't get to see these new folks shine. The action though was really solid in here. The final act is similar to the first in that all mayhem breaks loose, and it's really impressive to watch. Even more so than the first film, I think. The stakes felt higher in this one, and I was just overall more invested into this. Another note is that the movie is over 3 hours, I think it's 3 hours 15, and pace-wise it does dip a little in the centre of the film, but I think overall I never felt I was thinking about how long I'd been sat down for, but there was definitely a couple of scenes which perhaps could have been cut. A hunting scene in particular which would have taken this movie to about a 3-hour mark at most. Right, this review's getting longer than I wanted. Bottom line was that I thought this was truly great, and whilst not many things are worth a decade of waiting, rating, I think this lives up to being that great sequel and truly a masterclass in breathtaking visuals. It was filmed for 3D viewing, which is what I watched it in, and the scenery blended so effortlessly into each other and gave a great sense of depth without losing the sharpness in any of the CG. I'll definitely be going back to watch this in cinemas, and it's one I'd definitely recommend to you guys. Maybe just go to the bathroom before the film starts though. But yeah, it's out this weekend and maybe you've already seen it. If so, I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. If you found this review helpful, please feel free to leave a like and subscribe, always helps out. And as always, stay tuned for more reviews on movies, anime and video games. Until next time guys, take care. Bye bye.